Without trust, people are not buying from you. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to build trust using the trust formula. This is something I've developed over the past 20 years of being in business. And what it'll help you do is help you become the leader in your market, better nurture your audience, and therefore they're more willing to do business with you compared to anyone else. So my name is Goodwill. I'm the CEO and founder of Healthpreneur, and for the past 20 years, I've been building 7- and 8-figure businesses and helping thousands of other health experts and coaches build 6, 7, 8, and even 9-figure companies. What I'm sharing with you here is part of the reason why I've been in business for 20 years. Like, you don't last in business without having this dialed in. So I'm going to be drawing some stuff out on the iPad here. You're going to want to make some notes and literally just write down this formula, because when you start to look at your business and your life through this lens, everything changes and you can reverse engineer how to build trust quickly so you can outmarket, you can outlast your competition and be the go-to provider, the go-to coach, the go-to business in your market. So before we dive into the formula, I just want to remind you that everyone talks about attention, right? If you can't get someone's attention, it's all for naught. And I understand that. The problem, though, is that attention gets people to pay attention to, obviously. But if we want them to pay you money for your services, they're not just going to go from getting attention to give you money. So trust is the bridge between getting that attention and people giving you money. It's everything. It's everything. So when we think of building trust, a lot of people talk about, like, just put yourself out there, create a lot of content, be visible all the time. And all those things are true. What I'm going to help you do here with this formula is help you understand why that's the case, so you can reverse engineer this almost to a mathematical level. So let's dive in. So as we see here on the iPad, we have a bit of a formula that I'm going to walk you through and fill in as we go. So the first thing is Goodwill. So Goodwill is, well, number one, we want to increase the things on the top of this formula, just based on math, right? So number one, Goodwill is essentially like, how much value are you adding into the marketplace, right? The way I look at Goodwill is two components. So one, we have integrity, and integrity is doing what you say. It's keeping your word. It's saying, if I'm going to publish one video a week on YouTube, that's what I'm going to do. That's what you can count on me for. If I'm going to publish content every single day on Instagram, that's what you can rely on. If I'm going to send you an email every Saturday morning, that's what you can rely on. So that integrity piece is really about consistency. And also it gives people reassurance that you're going to be around. If you think of your favorite TV shows, I mean, if you watch television back in the cable days, my favorite show is Vampire Diaries. Yeah, CW, baby. So Vampire Diaries is on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock. And every single Thursday at 8 o'clock, I knew exactly that was happening. And I used to go crazy when there was like a presidential debate or something else that would take its place. I'm like, oh my God, I have to miss a week and, catch up next week. But I knew every single Thursday at 8 o'clock, that was what was going to happen in terms of the show being on air. So the same thing with you in your marketplace. You just want to be visible and you want to be consistent, because it's essentially going to give people peace of mind and reassurance that you're going to be around for a long time. Okay. So a lot of this ties back into deep psychology of how humans operate at the reptilian level. And humans love certainty. If you pop up every now and again, that doesn't give people a lot of certainty. It's like, is this person going to be around tomorrow? Who knows? So integrity is part of this Goodwill. The second component is being helpful. I'm not a huge fan of flexes, right? So posting pictures of private jets, the booty, how cool you are, that's fine. That has its place. But again, it's a small percentage, I believe. I think everything that we should put out there should be helpful. So if you create content in any way, shape, or form, how is this making someone's life better? That's the lens. That's it. So if you, as let's look at the typical Instagram influencer, the stereotypical Instagram influencer who's got the bubble butt, the tight outfit, and they're taking pictures of their butt. Okay, let's just use that as an example. How on earth is that being helpful, other than stroking their own ego? I'm not saying like that's the game to play. I think that's a complete colossal waste of time. But kudos to them, they're using their assets. So use what you got, right? But I think for us, health experts, coaches, business owners trying to be, value to other people, being helpful with your content is going to be way more useful than just constantly flexing. And here's the cool thing is the more valuable, the more helpful you are, the bigger the flex that is. You don't need to tell people how cool you are. They will know based on how valuable and how helpful you are. Okay, so goodwill, the more goodwill you can create. If we just left everything here, if we just left this formula here, if you increase goodwill, you increase trust. Okay, so that's the first piece of this formula. The second piece of this is hugely important and something a lot of people don't want to hear, which is time. Goodwill times time. Can you create content? And when I say, please understand, when I say create content, let me just break this down. I mean, put stuff in front of people that's useful. Ads can be content, emails, post on social media, YouTube, podcast, speaking on stage, doing like anything that's going to put your message in front of the people you want to serve. That's what I mean by content, okay? Now, you do it once, no one remembers, you're a blip on the radar. You do it over and over and over again, different story. So time is important because time, if we think about this and how this is broken down, we have frequency. So how many repetitive touch points, if you will, is it once a week? Is it every day? And then we have duration. So I'll give you an example. So when I was on the Dr. Oz show in 2014, I was on the show once, an 8-minute segment. We sold 10,000 copies of my New York Times best-selling book in that segment, and it was awesome. But then a couple of days later, I was a blip on the radar. No one remembered. It was gone. Okay, so that's an example of, we'll just call that scenario number one. But if we look at how Dr. Oz got his show, here's how this happened. He was a cardiac surgeon, and his wife was a producer who knew Oprah. So Dr. Oz got an in on the Oprah Winfrey show. So he was, I don't know if it was a weekly segment that he had on there or bi-weekly, but he was on there pretty consistently. So he was on Oprah's show as a guest expert over and over. So frequency, okay? Oh, not just once, over and over and over again. As a result of the credibility and the trust that Oprah had built with America in general, that trust and credibility was then lent to Dr. Oz. So that in conjunction with that and his duration of episodes with her and the frequency, it naturally made sense that he could go on and have his own show. So when you look at a show like Oprah or Dr. Oz, if you think about this, 5 days a week, every single day, for years, frequency, right? 5 days a week, duration, years. That's how you build trust. That's how you build trust. Why? Again, let's come back to reptilian brain. I need to feel certain that you are going to be around. It's really simple. When you see a show over and over and over and over again, it's known as the mirror exposure effect. We give more value to things that we see more often, even if they're not necessarily more valuable. Like if a monkey ran for president or if a monkey had a show every single day, we would at some level deem that monkey as trustworthy and someone we could relate to because we see it all the time. So like human behavior is very interesting. And when you understand it, you can start to deconstruct how we can build trust. As you're going through this, I want you to think of someone in your life who you trust implicitly. Maybe it's a parent, right? That probably is the easiest example. And I want you to think of how a parent falls into this equation in terms of goodwill. Have they been helpful in your life, right? Do they keep their word? Do they say what they're going to do? If you have a parent that you don't have a lot of trust with, integrity might be one of the pieces that's missing. But generally, we have pretty good, like one parent typically, or maybe both, where we've had a lot of exposure to them, right? Frequency and duration. That's why we grow up taking 18 years to leave the nest, if you will. All of this builds trust because we're social beings. And the same thing applies to you as a business owner. So how much goodwill can you put out there, right? Being useful, being helpful. Can you do it frequently? Can you do it for as long as possible? If we think of duration as another example, so duration doesn't just necessarily mean how many years or how long in that frame, but it could also mean short form versus long form content. I think it's very easy to understand why short form content does not build trust as much as long form content does. An Instagram reel that's 10 seconds is going to have nowhere near the amount of trust building that a 30-minute video will have on YouTube. I think we're all aware of that. This is also why in our business, we're very much proponents of what we call the perfect client pipeline, which is a 4-step business model, adds into a 45 to 60-minute webinar application phone call. Because the more time, the more someone's going to pay attention to you, the more likely they're going to pay for you. So time is really important. That's why I'm a huge believer in YouTube and long form content. And podcasts, your best customers or your best clients are going to come from those platforms. But the tricky part is that they just take a long time, right? They take a long time to get traffic and exposure and traction. And that's also why I'm a huge fan of advertising, because advertising is the quickest way to visibility. But the problem with advertising is that no one trusts you, right? Why? Because here you are interrupting their feed. They've probably never seen you. And they're like, why are you here? And that's why even with advertising, I've been advertising every single day consistently for the past 8 years with this business. I don't think we've turned off our ads for a single day. So when I look at my ads, I look at them almost as another way of just putting my brand, not even a specific piece of content, but just the brand in front of our audience. And we have known, and we've seen this many times where people come in, they're like, yeah, I've seen your ads for like 2 years and I was finally ready to do something. I'm like, good. That's the point. So again, I'm playing the long game. I encourage you to as well if you want to really build something that lasts and build trust in your marketplace. So we have Goodwill, we have time. And then the third piece, which is really interesting, is proximity. So this is actually a really interesting one because how do you create proximity in a virtual world? So if you're building your coaching business primarily online, how do you build proximity when this is as good as it gets? Let's look at the difference between a brick and mortar and a virtual business. Brick and mortar, someone walks in the door, you shake their hands, you see they're real, instant trust. Like 80% of it is just the physical proximity. Online, we don't have physical proximity. So now we have a problem. And we all know that there's a major trust recession that's going on since COVID. No one believes anyone, right? There's, AI and deep fakes and all this kind of stuff. And that's only going to get worse. So please understand that what I'm sharing with you here, this whole trust issue is only getting worse. It's not getting better. And if you don't understand how to fix this and kind of manufacture trust, if you will, your business is going to suffer. So let's not make that happen. So when we look at proximity, there are two ways. There are physical. So let's start there. So we talked about brick and mortar versus virtual, right? It's obvious. How do you create physical proximity online? Well, there's a couple ways. We look at the medium. So how do we create a real interaction with people? So number one would be something like a Zoom video, right? You have a Zoom meeting on video. That would be like the golden scenario, okay? Online. That's how you're like, it's a real conversation. It's Zoom. I can see you, you can see me. That's step one. One step removed from that would be this video, right? We're not necessarily interacting, or like, again, this is interchangeable with the next one, but we'll just keep it on video. We're not interacting, but you can see me, right? You can experience my body language and all that kind of stuff. One step from video, and this is maybe interchangeable, is audio. So let's say you're on a call, you're not on a Zoom video call, but you're just on a call. That potentially could replace video in spot number two, because now it's more interactive, right? So we can have a real conversation. We can see if hopefully the person's real, but there is some AI technology out there where people don't even realize they're talking to an AI agent, which is pretty amazing. But nonetheless, okay, when people can't see you, that's why I like video number two. When people can't see you, they don't necessarily trust you. And fourth is text. Now, text is the least trust building from a physical proximity perspective, because there's no connection. They can't see you. It's words. They can't see your mannerisms, your body language, all these non-verbal forms of communication. So text is fine. Like if you're writing, like when I say text, I mean like an email, caption, stuff like that, the words. But it's not going to build trust anywhere near this or a Zoom video. So that's how we can build physical proximity online. So what does that mean to you? Well, what does that mean to you? Like, let's say that you have an email list and you want to get more clients. Well, I talk a lot about nurturing your audience. How do we nurture people? Well, we add value. It's like, think of nurturing as building trust. It's the same thing. So in the context of your email list, how do we build trust? Maybe you do a Zoom workshop once a month, right? Or a Zoom Q&A call with your audience. Like they can connect with you on Zoom live. In fact, I'm actually doing one after I finish recording this. So it gives people who maybe previously only read your emails to now connect with you live on a Zoom call. That's a really simple way of doing this. So think of, how do I connect with people? How do I connect? How do I add value? How do I get, visible with them, even online? The second component of proximity, and this is really important, is emotional. And I call this, the short form is VAT. It's not the European tax, but it stands for vulnerable, authentic, and transparent. out of these three, I'm probably the lowest on vulnerability. Okay. Like I go through a lot of challenges in my life. I don't really, air my dirty laundry for everyone to see. I don't actually like doing that while I'm going through it. I'm happy to do that in like retrospect. Because I think I've had a bit of perspective, but I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I'm going through such a tough time. That's just not me. And I'm not poo-pooing that. If that's your thing, that's amazing to a point. Like if everything is like that, then it's like, man, get your life together, right? So vulnerability is really important. And especially as an expert is really important. And here's why, is that people do business with people and your clients are going to choose coaches, not coaching. You might have a cool mechanism for how you help people, but at the end of the day, if they don't like you, they're not doing business with you. So to become a more likable, trustworthy character, it's really important to chop yourself down. People, like everyone else, is going to try to chop you down, right? Especially the more successful you get. It's actually way more effective if you chop yourself down. And what I mean by that is if you're on a pedestal of like, oh, I'm so good. I'm Harvard, Oxford educated, PhD, MD, ND, whatever. I'm so smart. I'm this awesome. But you're also a human. And that's the piece that people don't see. And when you can show the human side of what you do, all of a sudden, it doesn't make you less than, it makes you more than. Being an expert is not enough. Like, again, like who cares? Like no one gives a shit if you're a therapist or a doctor. They don't care, right? That's like an implied given. Like, yeah, you should be good enough to help me solve a problem. But it's like, can I connect with you as a person? And so as an example, on our Instagram account, when I post personal content, we call these like signature stories and things that are a bit more like hard hitting to home. The level of engagement is way different. So I posted something about my dog Layla, who we put down 2 years ago, year and a half ago now. And holy cow, like it was like, like normally our content is like, okay. But this went crazy. Like we had hundreds of comments. And it's a story that a lot of people can relate to, right? People put their dog down and they can actually have to animals. And it was just a reminder of like, there's no algorithm, like shadow banning happening here. It's just the content wasn't resonating with people at the level that this did. And so anytime myself or any of our clients share something that's more like vulnerable, it crushes from an engagement perspective. Now, please also understand that you have to think of it. You can't put everything out there just about vulnerability stuff. If all I did was talk about parenting and my dogs, I would never grow a business. Like I had to say, like it's like, hey, what's the problem you want help with? Let me show you how I can help you solve it, etc. So that's more of like the Goodwill stuff. But don't make people believe that you have it all figured out, right? Show the kinks in your armor, and it makes you more believable. Okay, whatever that. There's like a famous metaphor or something that's like, the cracks in the vase or what makes it more valuable, something like that. I don't know. So vulnerability is one piece of emotional proximity. The second piece is authenticity, which is essentially just be who you are, right? I don't think there's much more to explain there. It's like being authentic is being who you are. I don't know how else to explain it. And third is transparent. So you might say, okay, well, there's a lot of it seems like there's a lot of crossover between these three: vulnerability, authenticity, transparency. I think they're distinctly different, but they're also somewhat similar, maybe. Transparency is just telling the truth. Don't lie. And transparency will come into what we talk about at the bottom part of this equation as well, is when you tell the truth, people trust you more. But again, you saying something is very different than you showing something. So transparency, just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we dig into the bottom half of the equation here. But all this to say that if we create goodwill, right, add value over, like just be useful, right, keep doing it consistently, do it frequently, do it for as long as humanly possible, and let people in, right? Let people in, connect with them, even if it's virtual. Like we do these three things, we increase trust. Make sense? Hey, we'll get back to the video in just a second, but before we do, if you're an experienced health professional who's wanting to grow your business online and you want a better, faster way to do so, and you're liking what we're all about here at Healthpreneur, click the link in the description to see if you qualify for us to help you scale your business 10 times faster without the grind and without the guesswork. Click the link below in the description, and let's get back to the video. Now, on the bottom side of the equation, the one thing that we need to reduce to the best of our ability is uncertainty. So this we want to decrease. Remember, in math, anything on the bottom side of the equation that we decrease increases the outcome. So by decreasing uncertainty, we increase trust. So let's look at how we do this. There's 3 specific ways. So number 1 is what I just talked about, is not just telling someone something, it's showing them. Like, I don't believe a word you say, I only believe, what you show me, that kind of idea. I'll give you an example from the context of testimonials, right? Social proof, if we're going to use that as an example here. So you can write a testimonial, like a blurb. Like I went to, as an example, Fat Bastard Burrito. I don't know if you have it in your neck of the woods. It's really, really, really good. But on the wall of the burrito place, you have all these random quotes, right? Like, I would leave my wife for this burrito, in quotes. Okay, cool. But anyone could have written that on the PR team of the company, right? On the same wall, they also have a testimonial from Gordon Ramsay, right? Which is like, effing, like, he swears all the time, like, effing burritos, these are the best ever. Picture of him saying it, right? Another level of proof. So what I'm sharing here is, like, you can write anything you want. Like, oh, so-and-so lost this amount of weight and had these amazing results. You can write that and put it in quotes and make it all fancy on a website. That is, the level of believability on that these days is close to 0. You might as well not even use that. So what is the gold standard of proof? Visible proof. The number 1 form of proof is, like, let me talk to one of your clients. Like, now they can actually remember. Why? Physical proximity. Let me make sure this is a real person. Let me have a real conversation. All right, well, that's probably not going to happen in most cases. One step removed is, let me see a video testimonial of a client talking about their journey, their results, etc. So if you have video testimonials, gold standard. From the video testimonial, you can, like, extract testimonials and clips and whatever. But if you don't have video testimonials, the next best thing is just screenshots from your coaching community. So if you're working with clients inside of a Facebook group or a school community, screenshot the results that they write. Like this morning, I was in our HVA mastery group, and 2 of our clients had posted pictures of new cars that they purchased as their business has grown. So if I were to, again, keep it completely anonymous, okay, out of respect for the clients, you can take a screenshot of that and be like, hey, so-and-so just bought a new Range Rover. Here's, like, what she said. My name is tagged in it. Here's the picture. You would have to be really messed up in the head to believe that someone would go to the lengths to construe that kind of image in Canva or Photoshop. So visible demonstration is really important. And that's the proof component of the uncertainty here. Because what it does is proof gives people an increased sense that the outcome that they want is possible with you, right? Because they're like, listen, they're bombarded with lots of other options. Why should I work with you compared to someone else? Well, they can copy your promise, but they can't copy your proof. The second thing that we can do here is we can show the process. So you go to an open kitchen in a restaurant. You can see the kitchen. Do you have more trust and more faith that the food is being taken care of properly versus if you had no idea where the kitchen was behind a closed wall? The answer is obvious. Like, even if none of us are, like, OCD enough to look at, like, hey, where's my food? I'm going to make sure they're not spitting in it. We're not doing that. But there's a level of reassurance to see the kitchen, knowing, like, they know people are looking at them. They're not going to do anything funny. So that's an example of showing the process. Another example that you can do in your business is if you don't have a kitchen, which I'm assuming you don't if you're not a restaurant owner, but if you're working on something, like, just, hey, here's a video. I'm showing behind the scenes of, like, I'm putting together a book or whatever it is. Give people behind the curtains peek at what it is you're working on, whether you're building out your curriculum, or maybe you're on a coaching call with clients, or maybe you're writing something. Let people in. Okay, you're showing the process. And when you show the process, it adds more value to the actual thing you're building. The final piece of uncertainty is considering a test drive. You have to become exceptionally skilled at selling if your offer increases risk on the client's perspective. So by contrast, if you say it's free and then you can pay, naturally you take on more of the risk, they don't. So it's a lot easier. You don't have to be the world's best salesperson to make someone, like, get someone in on that type of offer, because the offer in and of itself reduces risk, allows them to test drive it, then they can make an informed decision on the inside. Now, I'm not saying you should do this. I'm also not saying you shouldn't do this. Every business is different, and you have to know your business economics to see what's going to make sense and the type of clients you want to bring in. But if you think about someone buying a house, most people don't buy a house sight unseen. Like, they walk through the house, unless your name is Yuri and you buy a house in Mexico and build it on the side of a cliff sight unseen. But most people don't do that. They walk through the house. They're like, yep, this is good, cool. Home inspection. Then we put an offer in, or we put an offer in contingent upon a home inspection. You don't buy a car typically unless you've driven the car before. When I bought my first McLaren, I didn't know what a McLaren was until I drove it. And then I was like, I'm buying this car. I don't know. I'm going to figure out a way to buy this car. It's unbelievable. I drove the car, and now I had more certainty that that was what I wanted. It wasn't going to fall apart. I could feel what it felt like driving. So please understand, this is why people have, like restaurants, or you go to Costco, they give out samplers, right? If you have like a box of chicken fingers, okay, like new company comes out, box of chicken fingers, it's in the frozen section. You're going to pay $20 for a box of chicken fingers. Okay, cool. Not a big deal. You lose $20, who cares? But you have no idea what the chicken fingers taste like. So what a smart company would do is they say, cool, we have a new product on hand here, and we're going to give out samples to people in Costco. And so they chop up the chicken fingers after they've been cooked, and they're like, hey, here's a sample. You want to try with some plum sauce? You're like, yeah, cool. You try it. You're like, that's really good. I think I'll buy a couple boxes. That's the power of a test drive, is it gives people, to a certain extent, try before you buy experience. They don't need to risk making the wrong decision. And this is one of the biggest fears that we have as humans. Most people are terrified of making a decision, which is why they don't make any decision. And by not making a decision, they make a decision not to make a decision, which just procrastinates and delays everything anyways. Humans are terrified of making the wrong decision, of making the wrong choice, because they think it's a personal attack on their ego, sometimes. Or they look at the money that they have to spend, and they're like, well, what if this doesn't work out? What if I don't like the chicken fingers? Am I willing to lose $20? Sure. But what if the chicken fingers were $20,000? It's a very different proposition, right? I don't think many people would buy chicken fingers for $20,000 without maybe trying them. Or if those chicken fingers had rave reviews from millions of people. When you go to Amazon to buy something, like we're so conditioned to buy based on reviews now. And we see one-star review, and we're like, I knew it. I knew this. I knew his shit, even though it's got 5,000 five-star reviews. When people are uncertain, they follow the tribe. So if you can create the tribe and the atmosphere in the social setting where you have more social proof from other people, that's going to help. If you can allow people to test drive what they're about to get into, maybe not as your main offer, but as an option, that can be very powerful as well. And then you just have to look at making sure that, especially in a coaching relationship, they have to do the work. So if you're going to bring somebody in on some kind of like try before you buy experience, you have to be very clear about there's some conditions in place. You have to do this. You have to meet this criteria. We good? Perfect. If you don't like it after the 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, you don't pay. We part as friends. It's all good. But again, it's something to think about, because it's not about pushing harder. It's about removing friction. You will always get better results when you can remove friction. It is infinitely easier to make a compelling offer than a convincing argument. And so with what you do, how do you help people test drive your thing? Maybe if it's not a try before you buy experience, again, just to be clear, I'm not saying you should do that, okay? Maybe it's, here's a video showing you behind the scenes of our program. Here's a video from some of our coaches. So you're like, these are the people you're going to work with. All of these can build a bit more trust and reduce uncertainty, and therefore improve your chances of someone wanting to work with you. So that right there is the trust formula. We have goodwill times time times proximity divided by uncertainty. We want to reduce uncertainty. We want to increase the top three. And if you do this, you increase trust. Trust becomes inevitable when you do this. So I want you to really look at this equation and ask yourself, which of these elements could I do a better job of? For instance, am I not consistent with showing up for people in terms of adding value, for instance? Or, maybe I don't really add much emotional proximity in the value that it creates, right? Could I do that? Does that feel good for me? Or maybe I have no proof. Listen, if you have no proof, you got to start helping people in some way, shape, or form to get the proof. Because if you have a lot of reds in these areas, please understand people are not going to trust you, right? One of the reasons, and listen, I've been in business for 20 plus years and people still don't trust me. So like, it doesn't matter if you're going to be in business for 5 years, 20 years, 100, you will still have people that don't trust you as much. But I'll tell you this, when you've been around for a long time and someone asked me like, Gary, why should I choose you versus someone else? I'm like, I don't know. Have they been in business doing this for 20 years? All of a sudden they're thinking about, well, I don't know. I mean, I think she's helped like her friends or something for like 6 months. I'm like, cool. Sounds like she's probably the better option. Let me know. I'm like, I'm not going to sell you on this, right? So when you have these things in place, it just allows you to have more leverage in conversation and in the marketplace because people will naturally see you over and over and over again. And when you have more trust, here's the cool thing. You don't need to make crazy offers. Like if you look at the biggest brands in the world, Apple, do they make ridiculous offers? Like get a laptop for $0 and pay after 21 days? No, they don't. They don't have to. They're Apple, right? The Rock, and I've used this example before. If The Rock, who has, I don't even know, 400 million followers on Instagram, if he put out a post that said, I'm putting together a day of fitness in Honolulu, Hawaii. There's going to be 100 people. It's 25,000 to come. Here's the link. Do you think anyone is going to question that? Like, they're not going to be like, well, let me talk to some of your clients. Let me call, I got to talk to someone on your team about this. No. And the people who do will miss the boat. But everyone else, out of the 400 million followers he has, which in and of itself is massively trustworthy, which is a form of proof, it's a no-brainer because he's a celebrity. All of this, like think about this. I'll just finish with this. The pyramid of influence, as I call this. Most people start off as a generalist, which is the dead zone. Okay, so this is definitely where dreams go to die. We want to get out of here. So first step is we have to specialize. We have to become a specialist. Everyone wants a specialist. Specialists are paid more. That's a no-brainer. If you're going to alienate some people, who gives a shit? You're never going to help anyone anyways. Now, that's where it all starts, okay? And I'll show you an example of Dr. Oz in a second. From specialist, we become an authority. And from authority, we become a celebrity. Okay, but how do we make this ascension? We make this ascension by this, by goodwill over time and proximity divided by uncertainty, period. This is the pyramid of influence, which is literally propelled with trust. So let's look at Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz started as a generalist. He was a doctor. Then he specialized in cardiac surgery. Okay, so he was a specialist, still unknown to most people, except for people who needed his services as a surgeon. Cool. Then he starts appearing on the Oprah Winfrey Show every now and again, right? Once a week, whatever the frequency was. Now he's seen by the larger population as an authority. And then eventually he gets his own show and now he's a celebrity. And now he's friggin' in office for improving the health of America. You know, when you're at something long enough and you constantly play this game of just being present, adding value, connecting with people, you can only win. You can only win. This is why I keep saying like it's really, really important to play the long game because it's close to impossible to build trust overnight unless you're physically in person with someone. Here's the only way to fast track this is you can time compress building trust. Like this whole process can be time compressed into a few days if you are intimately in person with someone. Okay. So if you have a retreat and you have people come there in person, you hang out with them 24 hours a day for a few days, you will have a bond that is very, very strong. That's fine, right? Why? Well, because you have the time and the proximity, which to be honest, can overshadow goodwill to a certain extent. And uncertainty in the sense of, okay, well now it's like this person's real, you know, you can have conversations with them. You have a sense that this is like something substantial. So at the same time, you can also tell if someone's full of shit or if they're not really, they seem like a phony type of person. So remember, in-person trust can be built very, very quickly, but it's also trust, whether it's in person or online. Trust obviously can happen a little bit faster. In person takes longer online because of these factors. But remember this, it can be shattered in seconds. And so that's why this is, you know, an interesting dilemma. It's like it takes forever to build trust and your reputation, but it can be shattered in a moment. So I hope this video has found you well, but you know, ultimately what I'd love for you to do is just take this equation, this formula, and think about it through your own lens for your business, or who's someone in your life that you trust? Who's a business that you trust? What's a business that you don't trust? or who's someone in your life that you don't trust, and run it through this gauntlet and notice the patterns, notice the things that are missing. And if you can understand that and then reverse engineer these components in everything you do, you will build trust, you will outlast the competition, you will get more buyers, more clients, more market share, and you will win. So if you've enjoyed this, let me know what really sinks, what's really hit home for you. Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this kind of stuff, be sure to watch the next video where I'll walk you through our $1 million health coaching roadmap. If you're a health expert, coach, or therapist who wants to grow $1 million plus business without the grind or guesswork, you're going to want to check that out. We have a free scorecard where you can audit your business, and then I'll show you exactly how to fill the gaps to improve your score and thus the impact you're creating, the money you're making, and the freedom you're living with.